Welcome to Gradelink's Data Import Tool. In this video, we'll be walking through step-by-step how to get your staff, class and subject, and student data all imported into this tool so that it can format it properly for your support representative at Gradelink Support to be able to import your data successfully. The first set of data that we'll need to import is your staff. If you have previously already entered staff into Gradelink and want to just submit more student data or class data, you will need to enter at least one staff member or one class number in order to proceed to the next step, as there are conditional logic involved in this tool. You have two options to enter data. The first option is to manually click on Add New Entry and then enter the data manually by typing in and filling out these fields. For example, if we were to enter Bugs Bunny as our full administrator, if you select a full administrator account type or limited administrator account type, you will see this option to check the box if this staff member also teaches classes. This is very important that you designate this so that a teacher profile can be created for the administrator in addition to their admin privileges. If you do not check this box, that will not allow them to have a teaching account in Gradelink. If you select teacher, it will just set up a teacher level access account in Gradelink. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a full administrator who's also a teacher. And the rest of the fields are optional. You can enter salutation, job title, mobile number, staff school email, and staff personal email if you choose. The only required fields are first name, last name, account type, and whether or not they also teach classes. If you're entering data manually, you then have the option to click Add, at which point it will add that administrator in. And you'll see you also have the option to save and add new, which would mean that you just have the window will not close, but it'll save and automatically open up a new window for you, as you can see. I've entered all the staff that I want to at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and click Close. We're back to the Import Tool interface. Once you've entered all the staff, you can click on the green Next Step button. This will take you to the Class tab. Now, it is very important to note that in the Classes tab, or Class tab, these are not grade levels per se. These are intended to be the subjects or titles of the classes that you offer at your school. You must not simply enter grade 1, 2, 3, 4 in this tab. It will slow down your implementation process and prevent you from proceeding in an orderly manner. Again, you must enter the subjects or actual classes that you offer at the school. Please make sure when you're adding a new entry that you do not put grade 1, but you must put in things such as math, and if you have an internal title, that would designate what you label the class as internally. Maybe you have a designated number for that. The report card subject title is what you would call that class on a report card. So in many cases, a math class that maybe has a number after it for internal purposes would appear on the report card as simply math or geometry. It's also important that you submit the required field and assign a teacher to every single class. Keep in mind, there is a way to bulk import this information if you have a lot of it, and we're going to get to that next. The only other required field on this interface is the class type. You have two class types. One of them is standard, which is pretty straightforward. That's the typical class. And the other one would be if it's a homeroom or attendance class. If you have attendance classes for daily attendance for certain grade levels, you would need to set up an attendance class for every single homeroom or attendance for grade level or category. Otherwise, again, the class type would be standard if you don't use something like daily attendance. Report order simply designates what order do you want it to be on the report card in terms of the lists of classes. Period would be if you have advanced scheduling or simple schedules for your classes or subjects. Location, you can put the name of a building here, for example, and then you have grading scales that you can select if need be. By default, all of your classes would have the standard A, B, C, D, F grade scale assigned to them. You also have the option, if needed, for units and credits per year, but this is not mandatory. Then you have the option to click Add or Save and Add New, and you've added your class. The next step would be the students. If you choose to enter students manually, you can do so by clicking Add New Entry and entering all of the information. Please note that the only required information for students is the last name, the first name, and the grade level. You must select a grade level from this drop-down for it to qualify. And if you're bulk importing, the grade level must match one of these. Now, you'll notice you have preschool, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten. These are all the grade levels that are available in Gradelink. You have grades 13 through 20. These can be used if you are an institution that offers other types of classes or programs, like an adult school or anything that's not a standard K through 12. That's what 13 through 20 grade levels are for. So you will need to assign students, whether it's based on the year that they're in at your school, to a certain grade level. If you don't have any specific designation for grade level, just choose a default like grade 13 or grade 20 and stick with it all the way. You can fill out this additional information such as division, date of birth, gender. We do not support more than the standard 2 genders in the system, so you only have one drop down there. Ethnicity, locker number, locker code, all these are optional. We also have parent 1 full name, parent 2 full name, description of address. If it's a home address or a business address, you can put that in the description, put in the address, city, zip code, phone number, and then also a variety of different types of emails that can be assigned. For example, if a student has 2 families, whether through divorce or family separation, we can enter that data accordingly. Once again, all of that is optional data, and the only required data for the students is last name, first name, and grade level. We can click Add or Save and Add New, and there we have it. Now, if we have our data in all ready to go, you want to make sure that it's in spreadsheet format. Spreadsheet would mean you're able to open it in columnar data format or columns and rows in a spreadsheet that can be opened in a program like Excel, Google Sheets, or Numbers on a Mac. Any of these would be able to open a spreadsheet format of data, even if it's a CSV, and you'd have all the data showing up in their columns and rows. If you try to copy and paste data from another source in the bulk import, it will not work. You cannot copy and paste from Word documents, emails, text files. Only spreadsheet data will work for the bulk import. If we click on bulk import, it will take us to this interface where you can paste data. This data, again, must come from spreadsheet. And since we're on the staff tab, I have some sample staff data here that we can copy and paste. Now, if you try to right click and paste, most browsers don't support this. So you will need to use the keyboard shortcut to paste the data. That would involve, on a Mac, Command V as in Victor, and on Windows it would be Control V as in Victor. Pasting that in, and you can see that the column data format is all there, and you can then click on the Process Data button. Now, this is a very important step where you need to assign the column headers for all the data that you want to have imported. So, this is the first name, then we have last name, the account type, the salutation, the job title, mobile number, and the emails. Now, it's important to note that if you have extra data that does not fit in one of these fields, we won't be able to import it into Gradelink because there's no corresponding field in Gradelink to do so. That's why we're limited to these columns in this instance for the staff data. If you only have the bare minimum, which is first name, last name, and account type, you can simply select those and move on. The rest of these are optional. The next step is to click Import, and it will come up with a warning message to make sure that all of the required column headings are assigned, so you can double check that and then click Continue. Now you'll see all of the data that we had is now nicely imported, and you can preview it here. If you want to flip through the different records, because we have 45 total staff in this instance, there's 3 pages. You can actually use the page numbers or the arrows to go to the different pages of data to check through them. If we go back to the first page, you will see there is this link right under the Next Step button that says Show Only Invalid Rows. This will isolate any records that have issues with them. So in this case, we can see that there's actually a record that has a problem with it in the staff school email column. Now you can use your mouse wheel as you hover over this table to scroll. If you scroll down, it will scroll to the right, and if you scroll up, it will scroll to the left. If you can see what the invalid data is, you can go to the Actions column, and you can either choose to delete using the trash can this row, or if you want to edit it, you can click on this Edit button. The invalid data won't show up in the field because it needs you to erase it. So what we recommend is that if you see an invalid field like this invalid email address, go ahead and copy that and then edit the field. Then in the correct column or field, go ahead and paste that in and then make your correction. In this case, the error was because there was an exclamation point instead of an @ symbol for the email address, which would prevent an email from being sent to that email address since it's not correctly formatted. Once you've made your correction, you can then click Edit, and it will go ahead and fix it. And you'll notice that the Show Invalid Rows button no longer appears since all of the data is now valid. We can now proceed to the next step. Click Next Step, the green button, and it'll take us to the Class tab. Now, we're going ahead and erasing the manual entry we made before, so we're going to go ahead and bulk import the class data. If we bulk import and we go to our spreadsheet, we can copy and paste all of these classes. Now, I don't want to do all these classes. I'm just going to copy the first 5 rows or so. But point being, you can copy any set of data and paste it in here using, again, Control V as in Victor or Command V as in Victor, and then click on Process Data. Same principle as and workflow as what we used before. Now we're going to need to assign the column headers correctly. So the first one is subject and grade level title. So this would be the title of the class that you offer. This would be the internal one. And then however you want it to appear on the report card would be the next column. And we've got teachers, the class type, and then a couple of other columns like period, or this one is actually an extra column. I believe this one is supposed to be period, and then this one is location. We have one location for the school. And you'll notice that I have the ability, if I accidentally assign the wrong column to a set of data, or I didn't mean to, I can just click on the drop down and select the blank one to unassign it. And it will allow me to proceed. Click on Import, and it will show that warning message again to make sure all the columns are correctly assigned. And click Continue. And now we have our class data or subject data here. We can now proceed to the next step of importing student data. Bulk importing students is no different from what we just went through with staff and classes or subjects. We'll click on the Bulk Import Tool, and we have some class student data here. And we'll do Command V as in Victor or Control V as in Victor to paste in that data. I'm going to go ahead and click Process Data. And again, I can use my mouse to scroll through to the right and the left. And then we also have a scroll bar over here. And if you hover over the last column here, you can see there's a scroll bar to see up and down. However, because you're assigning column headers, you should not need to scroll up and down. It's more important to be able to scroll side to side so you can review all of the column headers. Now, we're going to assign the last name, first name, and by the way, those are the 2 required ones, if you recall, and the other one would be the grade level. Those are the 3 required fields. If you have other data, you will need to assign it to the corresponding column header. For instance, student name, nickname, these are all fields that are in Gradelink Student Information System. We have a blank column here. No problem, we'll leave that blank for the column header. Date of birth, gender, ethnicity, parent 1 full name, parent 2 full name, description of address, street address, city, state, zip code, description of address, street address, city, 2, and this is for the secondary. If there's 2 families, then you would need this type of stuff. But just showing you all of the available fields that you could possibly use in Gradelink. If you have, again, extra data that doesn't fit into one of these categories or or column titles, then you won't be able to put it in Gradelink unless you can assign it. For instance, some people use the locker number and locker code because those are text fields. So they might use it for some other information if you have something critical you want to import into Gradelink. Finally, once you've assigned all the columns, click on Import. You'll see the warning message. Make sure you assign all the column headers you wanted to, and click Continue. And we can see all of our nicely formatted data. We don't see any errors in here, so we can now click on Proceed. Or if you want to review all the data, you can do so. There's no more Next button, which means we can scroll down to the bottom and answer the final 2 questions. Will your school use subgrades on your report card? This is very important. If you don't have subgrades, which are grades that would appear below the main grade on a report card, in many instances they're used for the younger classes, or if you have a unique grade scale that you want to grade certain metrics, then that's where subgrades would come in on the report card. If you don't currently use them, just answer no. If you do use them and you want them in Gradelink, you can say yes, and it will take you through the subgrades import tool. And we're going to have another video that covers how to do that. You will also have the option to add subgrades separately from your staff, classes, subject, and student data at another time, so you can still say no if you don't want to import your subgrades right now. You'll simply need to click on Consent, check that off to make sure you entered all of it. It's just a double check. Click on Next. And at that point, you'll go to the final confirmation page where you can check that and acknowledge that you're ready to go. It's worth noting that you do have on every page of this data import tool the option to save and continue later. You can click on that, and then you have a link that you can use to continue later. It will have all of your data saved. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I would recommend copying it and pasting it into a document somewhere so you can reference it later. You also have the option to put in your email address and send the link to yourself. If I do that, then it will get a confirmation page saying the link was sent to my address. You will get that link. You can click on it straight from your email, or if you copied it like I did, then it will take you back to where you left off. So once you are ready to submit, you can go ahead and get to the final confirmation. Click on Check I agree, I'm ready to submit my data, and go ahead and click Submit. From there, it'll take you to a confirmation page thanking you for your submission, and you'll get an email with a copy of your submission. You can then click on the What's Next if you want to know what comes after you have submitted your data to Gradelink Support Team. We'll review your data, take care of your setup, and then send over your logins within the agreed upon time frame. If you haven't taken your Gradelink training yet, go ahead and click on the Training Courses button in order to take you to the training site. Thank you so much for joining us for this overview of the Data Import Tool. And once again, welcome to Gradelink.